before we begin, subscribe to The Last Narrative for more deep, thought-provoking documentaries. It's a chilling idea, isn't it? That great civilizations, they aren't so much conquered as they just fall apart. They crumble, piece by piece from the inside. And you know, when you look back through history, it's a pattern you see again and again. And that really gets to the heart of what we're going to explore today. We're talking about the European project. I mean, think about it. It's one of the most ambitious political experiments ever attempted. But right now, it's facing these incredible internal pressures. So much so that people are seriously asking, can it actually survive? Let's take a closer look. So, to really get a handle on the problems Europe faces now, you kind of have to go back to the beginning. Back to the original dream. You have to remember, this was a continent torn apart by centuries of war, culminating in two absolutely devastating world wars. So out of that rubble came this grand experiment. The idea was to tie the nations of Europe together so tightly, through money, through politics, through shared culture, that another huge war would be, well, literally impossible. And that journey started small, with some economic deals back in the 50s. Then it got much bigger with the Maastricht Treaty in '93, which really created the EU that we recognize today. But, as you can see here, that dream of an ever closer union has been hit hard time and time again. You had the 2008 financial meltdown, the migrant crisis in 2015, and then of course the huge shock of Brexit. Each one of these crises wasn't just a test, it left a scar, and each scar revealed just how fragile this whole thing could be. And that brings us to the first big crack in the foundation. We're talking about a powerful resurgence of division, politically, socially, and it's shaking the union to its very core. So here's the bottom line. For decades, the main idea was integration above all else. That was the consensus, but that consensus, it's shattering. And what's taking its place is this powerful new wave, a return to nationalism, to focusing on a country's own identity and its own interests. And that idea, well, it runs completely counter to what the EU is all about. And this right here, this lays out the central conflict perfectly. It's really a battle of two competing visions for Europe. On one hand, you've got European integration. Think shared rules, working together, a single European identity. But on the other hand, you have national sovereignty. The idea that each country should call its own shots, control its own borders, protect its own culture. And we need to be clear, this isn't just some abstract political debate. This is a fundamental fight for the soul of Europe. Now, if you want to see what that conflict looks like in the real world, just look at this chart. The numbers don't lie. It shows the steady, and I mean undeniable, rise in votes for populist and nationalist parties. We're talking over the last 15 years or so. This isn't some fringe idea anymore. This is a massive political force that's changing governments and rewriting the rules all across the continent, from Warsaw to Rome. And this shift, it has huge real-world consequences. What does it look like? Well, it looks like political gridlock in Brussels. You've got member states that just can't agree on anything, whether it's budgets or how to deal with other countries. It's also pouring fuel on the fire of social tensions, especially around really hot-button issues like migration. And maybe the most dangerous part, it makes it almost impossible for Europe to stand together and act as one when facing threats from the outside world. Okay, so you have this deep political division, but at the same exact time, there's a second massive pressure point building. And this one is all about economics and demographics, a set of challenges so big, they're forcing people to question the entire European model. Think about it. Europe basically invented the modern welfare state. But now, that very system is facing this slow-motion crisis. It's pretty simple, really. People are living longer, which is great, but they're also having fewer kids. So what you end up with is a shrinking number of young workers trying to support a ballooning number of retirees. It's a demographic time bomb that puts incredible strain on the whole economy. And if you want to boil that entire problem down to a single number, here it is, 1.5. That's the average number of children a woman has across the EU. Now, to just keep your population from shrinking, you need that number to be 2.1. So, Europe isn't even close. And whether it's because of money worries or just changing values, that one number points to a future with fewer workers, less tax money, and a continent that's just getting older and older faster. In this chart, this shows you where the money's going. you can see just how much of government spending is basically locked up. It's going to social welfare, paying off debt, essentially promises that were made to older generations. And when all that money is already spoken for, there's very little left over to invest in the future. It creates this vicious cycle, a financial trap that's really hard to get out of. So, what does all this mean for the average person? Well, it means having to ask some really tough questions, like, can we even afford these generous welfare systems anymore? It's a big reason why youth unemployment is so tragically high in places like Spain or Greece. And at the end of the day, it just makes it harder and harder for Europe to keep up, to compete with economies around the world that are younger and, frankly, just more dynamic. So you've got these political cracks and these huge economic problems, and they both feed into this final, really critical issue. It's a crisis of confidence, a sense of drift, and a growing reliance on others that really makes you wonder, what is Europe's place in the world today? I mean, it makes sense, right? When you're divided at home and struggling with your economy, how can you possibly project strength and a clear sense of purpose to the rest of the world? The reality is, Europe is still incredibly dependent on the US for its own defense through NATO. It's also really vulnerable when it comes to energy. And maybe the most worrying part of all is that the people themselves, they seem to be losing faith in the very idea of a shared European destiny. Which brings us back to the ultimate question. Can these fractures actually be repaired before it's too late? Remember, the whole point of the European project was to heal the old divisions that led to so much bloodshed. But now, it's facing a whole new set of fractures: political, economic, demographic. And they are testing the Union in ways no one could have imagined. The real challenge now is whether they can find a new, shared purpose, something strong enough to hold it all together. If there's one thing history teaches us, it's that nothing is permanent. Strength, unity, these things have to be earned, over and over again. The forces pulling Europe apart right now are powerful, and they are deeply rooted. Whether the forces holding it together are stronger is the defining question of this century. If you found this insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Last Narrative.